I think today I am here more with my hat as the General Director of the universAAL IoT Coalition, or short, the UIC. In addition, I am an employee of Fraunhofer IGT, which is a founder of the UIC, and recently I am also an entrepreneur in the course of incorporating the UCOR Systems GmbH using universAAL IoT, the technology that we are talking about today, as an enabler for a series of new products. I think I must explain now 2 points a little bit further. One is universAAL IoT, and then the second is the UIC. universAAL IoT is an open software platform for AAL and IoT, an enabler for AAL and IoT solutions. There are two important concepts here. Software platform is one of them. Today, everybody is providing a platform. In my understanding, however, most of these platforms are actually solutions and not really enablers for solutions. As I understand it, the users of a software platform like universAAL IoT are software developers who aim at developing own software solutions to solve certain problems in certain domains. For me, the old good operating systems such as Linux, Windows, and Mac OS are the perfect examples for software platforms. However, they are built for single devices. In the digital era, we need new operating systems for open distributed systems that involve multiple components, also physical ones in terms of devices. AAL and IoT solutions are such complex multi-component systems, and universAAL IoT is an operating system for such systems. Secondly, it is the adjective open. It refers to the openness of transparently documented and transparently licensed interfaces that can be used by anybody in the world without discrimination, who aim at becoming part of an open ecosystem in which all give and take among the participants roots at the shared open technology, which is available to all of them equally. The open platform is the initial value in this ecosystem, but everybody can bring new value to the ecosystem with own ideas and decide freely about own licensing conditions on the new value. And now finally, also a few words about the UIC. As you know, universAAL IoT is an open source software licensed under Apache Software License 2.0. So there is an open source community that takes care about the maintenance and further development of universAAL IoT. However, if we want that an open ecosystem emerges around universAAL IoT, in which thousands of other entities should participate, we need some organizational solution for bridging the gap between the open source community and the remaining of the targeted large ecosystem to the benefit of both sides. The universAAL IoT is an open international non-profit association based in Brussels that takes exactly this responsibility in order to guarantee for the ecosystem participants about the availability and further development of the universAAL IoT to the benefits of the whole open ecosystem. Even if universAAL IoT was first developed using funding available in the AAL domain, it is actually an enabler for arbitrary open distributed systems of systems, where you have to manage the complexity of bringing several different subsystems together and achieve interoperability and resource sharing, even if they are based on heterogeneous technologies and support concepts from different domains. The artistry of universal IoT is in the creation of a level of abstraction that breaks out of the cage of most of the technological limitations into the panoramic realm of semantic interoperability. To this end, universal IoT follows the principles of developing open technologies, which are: communication is based on the exchange of messages in plain text, even when encrypted, as it is in the World Wide Web when using HTTP. The participants are naturally expected to be able to interpret the messages. Universal IoT provides a reference implementation usable in Java virtual machines that facilitates the participation in the system with the ability to send on messages and interpret received messages. The content of messages is based on an established standard so that others can provide alternative realizations for other runtime environments other than the Java virtual machine. Here, universal IoT uses the semantic web standards that enable two important things. First, the transmission of the content together with the related context needed for the right interpretation of the content. And secondly, creation of a single database for managing arbitrary knowledge shared within the distributed and heterogeneous system of systems, with one single database schema for storing, querying, and manipulating arbitrary data shared among a set of participants. That is, data not private to one single component. By providing for semantic interoperability, while sticking to the above principles, universal IoT opens in a future-proof way a truly flexible world equally to developers, solution providers, and consumers. This is the world of arbitrary constellations and interconnection with no paternalism in the deployment strategy. Whether you want to have a cloud-based deployment, base your system on edge computing, support multi-tenancy, or have any combinations of them. Universal IoT has mainly been developed 2007 to 2016 within 3 subsequent EU projects. The third one of them, known as Make It Real, was actually an innovation project which was followed 2017 to 2020 by the more general large-scale IoT AHA piloting project ActiveAge in the smart living domain. During Real and ActiveAge, several pilot sites across Europe experimented in real life with different solutions on top of universal IoT. Several of them are actually claiming to be continuing with the usage of their solutions on top of universal IoT in real life, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I am aware of 2 products I am aware of 2 products, one already commercialized in Spain and the other one being commercialized in Germany. The company Ucore mentioned in the beginning, including myself personally, is involved in the second one, bringing a product known as YouLive to the market. YouLive is a solution to the challenges of an aging society and the shortage of skilled workers in the care sector. It enables people to live independently as long as possible. After more than 200 installations in real life, YouLive is already market ready. Without violating privacy, YouLive detects, for example, falls in a few seconds. For the first time, verifies emergency situations before alarming, thus minimizes false alarms, and can then notify help as quickly as possible. This way, ULIV saves lives and prevents the worsening of the degree of need for care. In nursing homes, ULIV helps to make processes more efficient. I think some general challenges for the uptake of universal IoT are the following. The AAL and IoT markets are huge markets that have induced a blistering competition that makes outstanding for us very challenging in general. Customers are confused by the complexity of digitization and hence hesitate in making decisions. Having been developed mainly within research projects with large consortia, universal IoT is suffering from two basic troubles. First, despite having already brought the evidence of market readiness, universal IoT is easily labeled as academic research and hence not appropriate for real market. And secondly, despite selecting the open source approach with one of the most permissive licensing standards, our open source community was seen as belonging to a certain consortium and could not really attract external developers. Managing complexity, what universal IoT is trying to do, will bring some easiness, but the act of managing, so the universal IoT itself, could still be complicated. When considering also that universal IoT is causing a shift of programming paradigm, as appropriate for open distributed systems of systems, developers will have to clear a learning hurdle first before being able to realize the benefits. And lack of financial support for the open source community has reduced the level of activity around the source code to a minimum since 2017, which in the eyes of external people referring to our open source project on GitHub is seen as a not really lively project. With the UIC, we wanted to solve the above problems, but we now think that it was too early. Looking at the other open ecosystems, such as the ecosystem of the PC market or Android phones, we realized that initially you need a specific partnership to bring the first product to the market based on your open platform in order to demonstrate what is possible to achieve before being able to run an ecosystem. Therefore, we have put the UIC on hold and hope that UCOR now can be the pioneer to become the business arm that creates the sparkle for firing the UIC rocket, how I call it. So this is what I think that we should be doing. What platform uptake could do for us, I think it is more in the sense of helping us to find out the best practices with open source projects and how they can penetrate the market, also raise awareness, help us to understand how we can really get rid of this academic research label and things like that, I think. Yeah. Even if actually I have talked about these problems and challenges that we are fighting with, actually we are convinced that we have really this platform as really very appropriate, at least for the domain for which we have these example products like ULIV and so on and so forth, smart living environments. We think that it is absolutely working reliably. We haven't had even one case of need for support with any issues that needed some bug fixing or something like that. And also, we believe that in the uniqueness of some of the features of universal, how this with this semantic interoperability approach, really the application logic is absolutely separated from the technology and devices, protocols, and so on, so that not only we can exchange devices and get other devices and so on that are better and so on, we can even take the application logic and put it on another instance of universal that provides the capabilities needed by that logic, no matter with which other devices and so on. So we can have also the portability of the application logic based on this service-oriented environment that universal IoT creates, without any tight connections between any two modules. So there are only modules that talk to universal IoT, and from there, the dependencies are resolved by the platform in a very transparent way. And for this, we think that really it is filling a gap in the market that has not been filled in yet. We hear from AIoTi, for example, association, that exactly those characteristics of universal, for which in the beginning, actually, there has been so much doubt if it is the right approach and so on, that they have become the priorities for them. One is the semantic interoperability, and the other one not being bound to only cloud-based deployment strategies. So they are now really putting high priority on edge computing, what is given given by the universal IoT per se. So we are very, very optimistic that having the first successful real universal-based product on the market, then we can demonstrate these benefits very well, and we can then really initiate that an ecosystem takes form.